Hello everyone, and welcome to the Astro Consciousness channel. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the full moon in Scorpio taking place on May 12th. In this channel, we talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth. Okay, so as with any full moon in Scorpio, we have to remember that a full moon is a culmination of some sort, a bringing to the surface that is inevitable, a turning point. Sometimes it's a realization. I think that's something about this full moon more than just being a realization that we didn't have before. It's more of the acceptance, perhaps even the surrender to the difficult truth that we might be facing at this moment in time, right? And how we navigate that difficult truth is going to have to do with how willing we are to accept the truth of what's being presented to us, our mindset, our connection to source, to spirit, our connection to trust, the returning to trust again and again and again. Because when we talk about Scorpio, we're talking about the part of the zodiac that has to do with the things that we either don't want to talk about, we don't want to see, we don't want to look at, right? That's why Scorpio and the eighth house, which it naturally rules in the zodiac, is known as the energy of taboo, the energy of death, sex, and taxes, right? Because there is something about those themes that we deem very, very, very private. And we don't just want to talk about it, right? Think about how we might shy away from looking at our finances because we feel we have no other way, right? How we might shy away from having the really deep, difficult conversations in relationship because they might represent a make or break, right? Um, Whatever it is, with Scorpio, there is always an element of if I touch this, if I accept this, if I acknowledge this with all the honesty in the world, there is no turning back and I can no longer turn the blind eye, right? And so that is why it is known as the sign of death and rebirth. Because when we acknowledge a scorpionic truth, there is an element of that. There is an element of once I accept the truth of this, I can't unsee what I've seen. And here's the thing, because we are savvy, right? The human mind does a really great job at keeping us comfortable and safe. And currently, the South Node is in the sign of Virgo, a sign ruled by Mercury, and it's quite activated during this full moon. We might be running in circles in our head, trying to just find just a different way, a different solution. Well, what if it works this, what if it works out this time? And what if I just control everything? And if I control everything, if I take care of everything, if I take responsibility for everything, if I'm just there, then everything will be fixed. One of the, I think that this is probably one of the more potent energies or aspects of this full moon, which is the connection of the South Node in Virgo to the full moon. I'll get into the transits in a second, excuse me, the aspects in a second, but I think that this is important to point out because the South Node in Virgo is obviously it's a lunar node. So whenever we have a lunar event, especially a full moon, themes around the North and the South Node are going to come up, right? So if the South Node in Virgo represents a relinquishing of control, right? Of trying the release of trying to manage everything, the release of trying to manage other people's feelings, emotions, the release of trying to find a solution that is not your responsibility to find, and to lean into the North Node, which is What is a solution that is soul-based that I'm not seeing here? What is a solution that requires a little bit more faith, a little bit more trust in my part? And so this is an intense full moon, right? As such is um every full moon in Scorpio. Without a doubt, it's really interesting. Without a doubt, it's just the nature of Scorpio energy. But here's the thing. Anytime that we have a full moon, we have to remember that this is not an isolated event. And really, that full moon's purpose is to highlight the emotional relevance of what the season is trying to show us. Okay, so what am I trying to say here? We are in Taurus season. Taurus season started the weekend of like April 20th. What has been unfolding for you in your life since around April 20th that this full moon in Scorpio is highlighting and is not letting you escape the truth? So here's what I've noticed, and I've said it in a couple of the last weekly forecasts. There has been an activation since we started Taurus season. There has been an activation of fixed energy. When fixed energy is activated, which are the signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, right? Especially with the opposition between Pluto and Aquarius and Mars and Leo. When fixed energy is activated, there is a tension and a pressure in the air, in the energy, in our bodies that has to come out in some way, shape, or form. And usually, the way that that tends to manifest itself in our physical reality, the way that the universe tends to manifest it, is that it tends to manifest things that force us into another chapter or out of a situation, right? So I'll give you an example. I have a client who was told that her rent was going to be raised a ridiculous amount, right? And she and her husband just not only can't really afford that, but they wouldn't anyway because it's ridiculous that their rent would be raised that much. Okay. She had already been feeling like where she was living, she didn't want to live, right? But sometimes, because we are creatures of habit and creatures of comfort, we need something to happen to kind of force us out of a situation, okay? It's a silly example, but notice how so much was out of her control in terms of something that she had already intuited needed to happen beforehand, okay? What do you feel is out of your control that God, source, the universe, whatever feels comfortable for you to use to connect with, is showing you you have to go a different direction? And those that are willing to say, this is the sign, this is the pressure that I needed, this is the decision that needed to be made for me. And when this decision is made for me, it's because there is a solution on the other side. It's because there is divine assistance on the other side. I just have to take action and be willing to end the chapter that is made clear that I have to end. So on the one hand, what I've noticed is people being willing to say, yep, this has got to end. The situation has gone on for too long. I'm going to do what I need to do. On the other hand, because this is fixed energy, what I have noticed, and I invite you to think about this also from a collective perspective, is there are a lot of systems, there are a lot of things that are no longer working for the collective. There are a lot of situations, agreements that are no longer working in our personal lives that are falling apart. But because this is fixed energy, there are those that are holding on to those situations for dear life and unwilling to accept what's being shown to them. This is not new. I talked about some of these themes with the new moon in Taurus that took place on April 27th. This full moon in Scorpio is highlighting without a shadow of a doubt what the universe has been trying to show you for quite some time, but especially since the beginning of Taurus season. And so there's something about Scorpio that strips us of any self-deceit. Because at this point, Scorpio, remember, Scorpio is the sign of depth psychology. It is the sign of excavation. It is the sign of purging. And in order for any of those things to happen, we have to get deep down to the core of something in order to get to the gold, get to the truth. And there has been a lot of that happening during Taurus season. And this isn't anything that we can continue evading, continue looking the other direction. This is something very real. And this is something that, because we are in Taurus season, is asking us, if I'm choosing to stay in a certain situation, right? Whether it's a job, or whether it's a place that you live in that you just know that you needed to leave a long time ago, a relationship, a partnership of some sort. Anytime that Taurus is concerned, Taurus is asking, do I feel safe here? Do I feel safe? Do I feel valued? Is this up to the standard of who I am and who I have become and who I am becoming? Right? So there's a lot that comes up with this full moon in Scorpio that, again, it's not new. We've been seeing it all of Taurus season, but there's something that just lands. Okay. In last week's weekly forecast, I mentioned to you, pay attention to what comes up the entire week leading up, right, to this full moon, right? So essentially the week of May 5th through the 11th, what came up? What finally landed for you? And what do you know in your body to be true that isn't necessarily easy to accept, but it's the truth. And it's a truth that you have been working to understand, and perhaps part of you has been trying to avoid or ignore, right? Because scorpionic truths, again, they're not easy to accept. They hit us at the core in a way that we normally avoid because there's something about our own shadow in whatever this full moon in Scorpio shows us that we have to accept about ourselves too, right? And so hopefully there is enough grace with yourself to do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can look at this chart together. But pay attention to what really revealed itself to you the week of May 5th through the 11th. This energy will continue to be active the following week, right, of the full moon. So the week of May 12th through the 19th. I would even dare to say to the end of May, because the intensity of that full moon is so potent that all really the universe is trying to help us with here is, can you accept this truth in a year like 2025? See, and that's another thing that you have to take into consideration. We are in a year in which Neptune has switched signs. Saturn is about to switch signs by the end of May. Jupiter is going to switch signs. Uranus is going to switch signs. Pluto has had a lot of difficult activation. So the intensity that you're feeling with this particular full moon in Scorpio probably feels a little bit more intense than previous years because it is under the umbrella of this climate of change and transformation that is happening anyway in 2025. So are you moving with the intensity in a way that empowers you, that might, rub up against some insecurities, rub up against some doubts, but you're choosing to, you know what, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep believing in myself. Or again, are you gripping onto the old story, for dear life, hoping that that's the thing that keeps you safe? Okay, so let's share the screen. So here we have this full moon in Scorpio that's taking place at 22 degrees Scorpio. And the first thing that we want to look are the rulers of this full moon. And the rulers of Scorpio are Mars and Pluto. And what are they doing? They are still within an orb of an opposition to one another. Okay, so what does this mean? Remember, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. In very practical terms, there is a situation outside of you, or perhaps even a relationship, a partnership, a contract that either feels bigger than you, either feels like you can't control it, or it feels like this is too big or too overwhelming. There can be a sense of overwhelm when Pluto's involved, especially to Mars, which is this is but this is what I want to do, and this is the direction that I want to head in. Okay. Remember, are we working with this intensity in terms of this might feel big, but I'm moving forward anyway? This might feel big. This personal situation might feel overwhelming, like it's taking over my life, but I have this other thing happening in my life that's actually quite productive. That's actually really beneficial for my future, for my well-being, for my sense of safety, particularly material safety, because we're in Taurus season, right? And we have to remember that this dance of opposition between Pluto and Mars is not new. This has been happening since last year. And three different times that Pluto opposed Mars were in November, in January, and just in late April. So what does this mean? This has mean that we have come face to face, that we have confronted either our own fears, our own insecurities, and we've kept going anyway. We've kept moving forward. We've kept meeting our limiting beliefs and choosing differently. Or if this has to do with partnership, whether professional or personal, we have been going back and forth with, is this worth it? Is this worth the battle? Is this worth the fight? Do I want to continue in this situation? Does this situation empower me or drain me, right? And so Pluto in Aquarius is the betting, right, for something different in the future. And Mars in Leo is asking, what is worth fighting for? What do I really love? At this point in time, especially with this full moon in Scorpio, this is asking, how much pride do I have in myself, in my sense of self-worth, that if I am in a situation where I am not being appreciated or it's draining me of my most valuable, precious resources, my time, my energy, my effort, how much pride do I have for myself, right? And not pride in an arrogant way, but pride in yourself as a person, right? So the two rulers of Scorpio, of this full moon, are confronting one another. This is us coming face to face with that inevitable truth. Wherever Scorpio is involved and wherever Pluto are involved, they are also asking us to accept where we are allowing chaos and drama in our lives. And I think that especially if this has to do with like family or depending on your circle of people that you're around, there's always going to be some of that, right? They're human connections. It is what it is. But if it's extreme and it's taking up your mental real estate. You can't sleep. You feel anxious. You feel like you have to avoid going somewhere or having a certain conversation. At some point, you have to come back to you, confront yourself, come face to face with yourself, and ask yourself, how much of this is also a choice? How much of this is also something that I am allowing and tolerating? Why is this important? Because this is a full moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign of depth psychology. Scorpio is a sign of looking at our shadow with a lot of compassion, with a lot of understanding, a lot of openness, and a lot of willingness to say, I don't have control over the entire situation. I don't have control over someone else, but I do have control over the decisions that I make, the conversations that I'm willing to have, and the boundaries that I'm willing to place. Why boundaries? Because Saturn in Pisces is actually creating a beautiful connection along with the North Node in Pisces, beautiful connection to this full moon. It's creating a sextile to the Sun in Taurus, conjunct Uranus in Taurus. It's creating a trine to the moon itself. Okay, so what does this mean? Saturn in Pisces and the North Node in Pisces, creating a trine to the full moon in Scorpio. That's a lot of water energy. I get the feeling that that there are a lot of intense emotions coming up with this, leading up, right, to this full moon, the month of May 5th, and then following the week of this full moon. There's a lot of emotion here. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of perhaps even history, right? Because water remembers. Water is the sign of the past. And there is an understanding of how much of this is consuming me. And Saturn there, especially with the North Node, is saying, you are the only one responsible for how much you allow this to consume you. That's the growth. That's North Node, conjunct Saturn. Saturn, the planet of personal responsibility. And so this much water will always require surrender, but not surrendering to, I give up, whatever happens, happens. No, the surrendering to the truth of what the situation is showing you. And then Saturn and Pisces sextile, the Sun in Taurus in conjunction to Uranus in Taurus, the truth, a grounded decision that values me, Taurus, that is worthy of me, Taurus, that helps me feel safe in my nervous system, Taurus, that helps me feel safe materially, Taurus, in my surroundings, Taurus. So this is so important. It's so important because one of the things I tend to notice when people are avoiding accepting the truth of their situations is that when we have intense astrological energy, they want to blame the intensity of their situations on the astrology, when essentially what the astrology is highlighting is the intensity that has already been there that they haven't been willing to look at. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because we have Pisces energy that's activated. This is water, and it's a full moon in a water sign. With water energy, we tend to want to avoid. We tend to want to dissociate. When Pisces is activated, and not in the best way, not because of the aspect itself, but because of each of our own levels of consciousness, we can say, well, you know, in a very Piscean way and in the not most positive Piscean way, it'll fix itself. It'll work itself out. I'm just gonna go about my day. I'm just gonna go about my way. But there's something about this full moon that's not allowing that to happen. Why? Because you deserve to be liberated. That's really why. So much of anything that comes up this year, like 2025, is about you being liberated from an old story, from an old self, from a past identity, because collectively we are in a new age. And the reason that this particular full moon might actually feel like a death and a rebirth is because I think part of our soul, part of our spirit is actually experiencing that. And so to understand the depth and the degree of what we are being asked to accept and perhaps let go of, it can feel that way because it can feel like a part of us is being taken from us. And so when we look at this full moon in Scorpio creating a sextile to the South Node in Virgo, on the one hand, this is beautiful, 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 beautiful energy to purge, to cleanse, to clean, to release your physical spaces, to clean stuff up, to throw things out, to donate things, to clean up your diet, to clean up your cupboards, to get rid of anything old clutter. Beautiful energy to do that. On the other hand, whenever we have a combo of Virgo, Scorpio energy, this is a lot of control. This is saying, nope, I got it. I'm going to fix this. And here's the thing. The energy of both Scorpio and Virgo is so intense. Most people would not describe Virgo as intense energy, but it is. It's very intense energy because it tries to control. It just does it in a very different way than Virgo does, but excuse me, than Scorpio does. But when those two signs come together, the intensity, the ability to control or to have this illusion of control of so many things is there. The higher expression of this is being willing to understand you can come out of this. It really is the image of, the phoenix rising from the ashes. I will start again. I can start again. This is a death and a rebirth, but my rebirth is so much stronger than what I'm leaving behind. The lower expression of the combination of both Scorpio and Virgo is just convincing yourself, because it's actually really powerful energy. I don't know, for any astrologers out there, for any of you who have a combination of Scorpio and Virgo, and they actually connect really well in your chart, you're probably really good at what you do. Either one thing that you focus on, you're really, really great at it, or you have this ability to pick up something new and get really good at it because there's a sense of obsession. There's a sense of control. There's this ability to hone in on something so deeply, so keenly that you're like, I'm going to get this because I'm going to get it. And you do. And you do. There's a lot of, there is a lot of, I can't, the word is escaping me right now, but there's a lot of ability to move through things. But here's the thing, the South Node, tenacious. There's a lot of tenaciousness with that energy, but the South Node is in Virgo. And so the South Node says your tried and true methods are not going to work because your tried and true methods are keeping you stuck. And the sun in Taurus in conjunction to Uranus is saying, and when you let that go, you will be liberated. And when you let go of the illusion of control of anything or anyone outside of you, you will be liberated. This is an interesting full moon. I think that it has the potential that for those who have been, again, and I've said this a lot the last several weeks, maybe the last even several months, if you're focused on something that's allowing you to grow, that is allowing you to step into this new reality that you want to experience, there's a lot of really well aimed action, really aligned action a lot of confidence, a lot of faith in yourself, a lot of willingness to get up every single day with a sense of purpose and a sense of gratitude, right? South Node in Virgo in a positive expression is a sense of daily purpose. The North Node in Pisces is, and I'm really grateful and I have a lot of faith and I have a lot of trust in the unfolding of this. I think this full moon in Scorpio is really going to show us where it's going to show us a lot of things, but it's going to show us really, really our state of mind, how we're really looking at the world, what stories we're holding on to. Or it's going to show us, oh, these are the stories that I'm actually letting go of. And I'm giving myself the opportunity to see things differently, I'm giving myself the opportunity to do things differently that might transform my life, but it's time. It's not anything new. This, I'll say it once again, this full moon in Scorpio is only going to highlight, without a shadow of a doubt, everything that this Taurus season has been showing you. And that's the purpose of every full moon. Every full moon is there to highlight, without a shadow of a doubt, the point of that season. It's not an isolated event. Okay. So, with that said, may this be of service. So much love to you all. I will see you next week. Take care.